Can we see the future? Have we traveled in the Doctor's TARDIS? No, but we are taking a look at comic book solicitations. What's got us excited? The Byword starts now. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Nerd Byword podcast, the only podcast presented in Smell-O-Vision. This week, we're going back to the future, taking a look at the March 2023 solicitations. But first, as always, it's time for... Nerd News! Chris, what is new?
Well, to be honest, Dave, nothing really jumped off of the news sites this week to report on. So I'm going with something that's trusted and true. And in celebration of Stan Lee's 100th birthday, which took place on December the 28th, it was announced that Disney Plus is going to be featuring a documentary on the life of Stan the Man, coming to Disney Plus in 2023. Of course, Stan was co-creator of many of the superheroes that we loved during Marvel's Golden Age, Silver Age. Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange. But, you know, in years past, this may have been something that I was head over heels excited for as just a Marvel fanboy. But now I'm kind of intrigued. You know, this is a Disney, instrument. So I know with all of the insight that was given to us under, with Abraham Reisman's book and kind of the untold stories that you don't get with the positive PR machine, I'm interested. I know this is going to be a fluff piece, especially post-mortem and stuff, but I'm still going to be interested to kind of see how they present it. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I'm not even 100% sure I'm actually going to take a look at this. You mentioned Reisman's book, for example, as probably a much better source as far as, something that's a little bit more of a balanced portrayal and not, straight up Marvel propaganda, quote unquote, at this point. Marvel Studios with all the cameos and stuff have definitely taken what was already a pretty towering figure in the history of comic books and put him even further on a pedestal and further, mythologized him, I guess. That at this point it is highly unlikely that a corporation whose interests lie predominantly in, making as much money as possible off of things that he has created or co-created, that they are going to have any kind of honest criticism or anything like that. I mean, I'm not expecting there to be a segment about his, strained relationship with Kirby, for example. I just don't see something like that particularly happening in you basically said it right. This is probably going to be a fluff piece. So I'm not sure if it's going to be worth my time necessarily. Unless, I see some interesting stuff coming out of it from fans' reactions or stuff that I might take a look. But I think I'm going to stick with Reisman's book and similar sources that are probably taking a more balanced, less mythologized look at the man.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, he's become one of those characters that he created. In fact, he was one that he created himself.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, Dave, in the week that was lean on news, what do you have for us?
Yeah, you're right. It is lean on news. So I'm here to once again just be very, very sad about the cancellation of Batgirl. As 2022, faded into 2023, we actually got another sort of moment of look what could have been. Because Leslie Grace, the actor who actually played Batgirl in the film, shared an image of what would have been a second costume that she would have worn in the movie. This is a behind-the-scenes shot. Looks like she's getting ready to eat, lunch or something. and she's wearing a different suit than what has been in most publicity stills and other behind the scenes footage. So what we know for sure is that at least initially the movie took visual cues from the Batgirl of Burnside storyline, that particular arc, and the very distinctive look that she had in that story. And it is a really, really good translation of that look. My guess is that this second suit that they featured is probably some kind of like, not necessarily post-credit scene, but something that happens really at the tail end of the film or something, where perhaps Michael Keaton Batman, who was supposed to feature in the movie, pops up and gives her like a better suit. It definitely has sort of a more, I guess, armored, not necessarily armored, but more padded look than the Batgirl of Burnside suit. To be honest with you, I'm not super enamored with it. It definitely leans into the purple scheme. Kind of reminiscent of something like the current Batgirl design a little bit. What she's running around in right now in Nightwing, I think in particular, is where you see that suit a lot. Definitely not, like Batgirl's classic look, but also not really the Burnside look. Something that seems to take cues more from current, designs in the comic books. I'm not in love with it, to be honest with you, but then it's always difficult to judge a suit like this in behind the scenes snapshots like that. When you add lighting and post production and everything looks a little bit different. I do continue to be really enamored though with how they translated the Batgirl of Burnside look. I think that suit, to borrow a phrase from the young ones, I think that suit totally slaps. And I'm just really still sad every time I see anything from what could have been that we're likely never actually going to get a chance to see this movie.
With how much I enjoyed Gotham Knights, and for a lot of in a lot of ways it was an introduction to me to Barbara. It just became me increasingly frustrated, and then seeing this photo, just reignited that flame. Also, the directors behind it, because I love Miss Marvel so much. It was probably my favorite television series of last year. And then the fact that it just doesn't exist, like it's just been wiped, like a Men in Black type situation. The other news story I almost reported on, but that you don't really have any kind of context for because you're not a fan of Game of Thrones, but like the shakeup also was confirmed by George R.R. Martin to have kind of axed some of the plans that they had for the plans of subsequent series and stuff. So it's just like, it's so frustrating that all the things that are coming out from this merger.
Yeah, it's been an unholy mess. I mean, on the DC side of things, I still maintain some hope that moving forward things are going to start improving and looking up. But looking back at some of the things that got the axe, particularly this Batgirl movie, this is really just a sore spot for me because I'm a big fan of the character, and I was looking forward to seeing, something happening here, and once you introduce Barbara, then you finally might be able to actually have a moment where you can have Black Canary and Batgirl like sticking their heads together, and that relationship is so important in the comic book. So seeing those two together, um, on the big screen would have been really something special. So this is something that continues to irk me to no end.
Yeah, so much so that you wanted us to fix Birds of Prey, and I know that you have technical holdups with that movie, but I said the bacon, egg, and cheese scene alone keeps it from me. I cannot fix that movie because I've never related more to a scene than the bacon, egg, and cheese scene.
I adore the movie. Don't get me wrong, but as a Birds of Prey movie, especially considering how much Birds of Prey I've read, I've read every Birds of Prey run at this point. It's just one of my all-time favorite books, especially Gail Simone's run in particular on that book is just so stellar. Um, that was not quite Birds of Prey. I mean, there were shades of really good stuff in there, particularly Black Canary. But it felt more like a Harley Quinn movie than anything else. And there was some ball dropping going on there, and I think one of the key ingredients that was missing was Barbara Gordon. I think that was sort of the key ingredient missing in that movie.
Speaking of balls dropping, I need an update on Journey Smollett's Black Canary projects because
I'm really concerned about that one. I don't know if that one's going to survive the merger either, man. Everything is going to be cohesive moving forward. They would basically have to make the decision that they're going to keep Journey Smollett as, Black Canary moving forward, and then, are there even any plans for that character moving forward, or is that not something that they're planning for in the 10-year plan? There's so many moving parts here, man.
yeah.
I really, really hope that we get to see this project, but I'm not horribly hopeful at this point. Alrighty, folks, there you have it. A lean nerd news week. However, when we come back, we're going to dive deep into March 2023 solicitations, and we're going to find some comic books that we are excited to pick up, so stick around. Ladies and gentle nerds, welcome back. It is now time for Kris and I to whip out our crystal balls and gaze into the future as we take a close look at the March 2023 solicitations in this week's All right, so some ground rules here. We've never actually done a whole episode just sitting down and taking a look at solicitations, but I think it's totally something that we should be, doing. And if we have fun doing this, we might do it a little bit more regularly. It is fun to kind of look through, the previews of what is coming in a couple of months and kind of getting a sense for, what do we actually want to pick up? What's got us excited? Which artists and writers have us hooked before we even pick up the book? Like, what is it that we're looking forward to? And so Kris and I have each chosen 3 books that we are particularly excited for, and we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about what the preview tells us and why we're excited about it, and hopefully you will find some stuff excited to be excited about as well. So Kris, launching into our big talk, what is the first thing that you are excited for?
Well, first and foremost, to make a correction, that old age is creeping up on you, friend. We have done an episode on solicitations before.
I do not remember this. I do not know her.
The first book I'm excited for has been my favorite book at Marvel over the last calendar year, and that is, of course, Amazing Spider-Man. I pray at the altar of Zeb Wells almost to that extent. I know that you have your frustrations about your beloved cardboard personality, Ben Reilly, and his heel turn, but at least it gives him some, character development that's not just a carbon copy of Peter Parker with blonde highlights. But I'm excited for Amazing Spider-Man issues 21 and 22 that are teased in these solicitations, because it finally asks the question, what did Peter do? There's something that's been not quite right about this run, and I don't mean that from my enjoyment of the series, because I've enjoyed every single issue. Every single issue has been a home run for me. What I'm saying is there's something not quite right plot-wise that would see Mary Jane, spoilers if you haven't read the arc, Mary Jane is now in a committed relationship with someone else and has children, but the timing doesn't fit. Like, it's only been 6 months and she has children that I would guesstimate about 6 to 7 to 8 years old, calling her mommy. Something doesn't feel quite right. You do have a cover where they are huddled together. They've been ice cold towards one another since then. So it says it's time. The arc will answer your questions, including what did Peter do? Who caused all of this? And then in the second one, who is this mysterious figure? And what do they have to do with Peter and Mary Jane's disappearances? So for those of you who have been starved for Peter and MJ storylines, I've been completely fed, because Marvel editorial's commitment to keeping Peter and Mary Jane apart has just caused me to adjust my expectations and to go full force into Peter and Felicia. And so I'm super happy right now. But I'm also like, Peter and MJ are great. I see this as an absolute win. Either way they go. This character that we see teased on the cover for 22 looks super weird and creepy, and I'm excited.
Well, I'm glad that you are excited. I cannot say that Zeb Wells' run has been the worst thing ever. That would be incredibly wrong. There's some very, very good stuff happening in this book, but I have a lot of frustrations with it. We are at the point that these solicitations are hitting what level? We're starting to scratch now. What, almost a couple of years since he took over? Since he took over, something like that. A year,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something like
Yeah.
that. And I'm not certain that the choice to do this mystery box storytelling, um, especially after the previous ongoing, never-ending mystery run, was the right choice. There's something really jarring going from the previous run to this run, and I know there's a 6-month time jump, blah blah blah, whatever. You get MJ and Peter getting ready to move back in. Peter's life is looking up to suddenly, boom, everybody hates him. MJ, as you said, is in a relationship with somebody else. There is a certain degree of frustration, I think, that comes with this constant reset button. And I know this is an editorial mandate. I just find myself a little frustrated with it at this point. I know there is a certain amount of resets being hit in comic books constantly. In fact, one of the things I'll be talking about as one of the things I'm excited about is something that includes kind of a reset button, but I think it has a lot to do with how it's handled as well, and basically saying, from one issue of Amazing to the next, by the way, everybody hates Peter now. He did something, but I'm not going to tell you what. His girlfriend ran off with somebody else, and just deal with it. Like, I didn't see anything in the stories that we've gotten from Wells that relied on that being the case. Like all of the Tombstone stuff, for example, I thought was super cool. And was probably one of my favorite things that I've seen in Amazing Spider-Man for a while. But that was not dependent on everybody hating Peter and him being on the outs with MJ. The stuff with Norman, although I'm not super, into like reformed Norman Osborn, even like that with the suit and everything and his whole thing with the Vulture, all of that stuff not dependent on this mystery box situation. So maybe the storyline will convince me. I'll definitely give it a look, but I'm not super hyped about it, and I was when the run started, and then it's not clicking with me the way I want it to, especially considering that there are some really, really good things in here. Like I said, the Tombstone arc in particular, I really, really liked, but it doesn't click with everybody, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to withhold judgment because I was a Nick Spencer run defender for the longest time, as our fans know. So I mean, he's still got a lot of territory to completely tear up before I get that kind of reaction. I get what you're saying. I guess I'm just going to be more patient than that.
Yeah, that's where you and I are kind of doing the parting of the ways, because of Spencer's never ending. Let's be patient. Let's be patient. I think
Yeah.
I'm out of patience, man. We're looking at almost 2 dozen. We're looking at almost 2 dozen issues at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if this were just a straight up monthly book, we're looking at almost 2 years worth of comic book storytelling, and now they're like, we might give you some answers. So I don't know, man. I think my patience is running out a little bit. The ride has to be 100% enjoyable too.
Yeah.
If you're just around for the tease of possible answers, we saw how horribly that can go in the pants with Spencer's run.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying parts of the ride, but there are other parts of the ride that really just they're a notch too bumpy, and my seatbelt isn't sitting very well. So I don't know.
I wish I could understand why you care about Ben Reilly at all. Like, I wish I could see it. I wish I could see it.
I think it has a lot to do with, like we talked about. We're going to bring this up a lot until we finally do an episode on it. But I think it has a lot to do with like the heir to the empire syndrome, right?
Yeah.
I was there, man. I read the Clone Saga as it was coming out. And it's not super surprising that people who were reading it at the time could develop an affinity for the character. He was, at the time, because that was the goal of the writers, he was the better Spider-Man. Peter Parker was running around navel gazing and screaming about how much his life sucks, and getting more and more violent. And Ben was the guy who was, standing in the corner, and he was still, classic Peter, cool as a cucumber, And then he started making Spider-Man his own. He started doing these things that were later adopted by later writers like Slott into Peter's character, which is like, the gadget making, the innovating, the impact webbing, and how he fights. And All of those things really started with Ben Reilly. So if you were there at the time, um, he's the originator of a lot of those things. So if you love those things, then you kind of love Ben Reilly, So they've transplanted a lot of the stuff that made Ben onto Peter these days. And I still make the argument that in a world full of metric crap ton spider people, that they cannot think of a single thing that they can do with Ben Reilly, except for turning him into a villain now twice. That is a complete lack of imagination on the part of editorial at Marvel, period.
I think it's much more interestingly done here than it was the first time. The first time it was just like, I'm on the run, I'm an anti-hero, guns blazing. Like, now it's like, it makes sense. He's with a clone of a flagship character of Marvel. They are, conjoined in their misery at being left behind, forgotten, whatever. One final note, because we could make this the entire episode. I still, methinks he doth protest too much when it comes to Norman. I'll never trust that mofo. So I still think the ball is going to drop. We're talking a lot about balls dropping. Well, we did, as the time recording, just was New Year's Eve last night. So, but yeah, I don't trust Norman. And I think that might just be like an unfortunate leftover from the Spencer mess that he has to deal with. And he's making chicken salad out of chicken, you know what?
Although I don't even necessarily mind the whole "can you trust Norman? No, you can't," and wait, like that is tension that comes out of the character of Norman Osborn being a manipulative SOB. The guy is going to be up to something, and you're just that's natural tension from the
Lex Luthor of Marvel, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. But the mystery box tension, I'm just not really feeling. It's just, we've just done this with Spencer, and it took forever, and then nobody really seemed to like the answer we got at the end. So, I'm tired of, telling me that you're going to eventually give me an answer, maybe,
One of my friends asked me about the Sin Eater stuff, and I just said, don't worry about it. Just read the Zeb Wells run.
The sad thing is Spencer's run had stuff in it too that I really enjoyed. So I'm still in the same boat, with Wells, in that there's a bunch of stuff I really like, and then there's a bunch of stuff that really just irks me, And it's maybe true that Spider-Man fans can never be truly happy.
Well, until we get certain individuals to leave from editorial. So when you have the whatever his title is, CB Cebulski, saying at a con on panel that Spider-Man being in a long-term committed relationship or marriage or whatever, not being relatable, that's it. Full stop. So you've got to adjust your expectations. Like, if you if he's Lucy holding the football, and if you run up and try to kick it, for me, like, I'm shielding my heart at this point. So
yeah, but I've also kind of stopped reading Amazing. So
yeah, I will say this: he gave us Kamala Khan, our beloved, as a co-worker of Peter. That's great.
I can't complain about that. That's almost enough for me to pick up another one.
Okay, almost. Enough about me and my books. Dave, you're up. Hey, listen. We kind of teased this one last week because we said we want Jamal Campbell on interior art, and what do we have?
Jamal Campbell on interior art. But Jesus Christ, man, I could not restrict myself to one book. I just want to talk about 3 in 1 here in what's coming with the Superman family of books. So, spinning out of Action Comics 1050, which was sort of a reset button, fixing some of Bendis's mess that he left behind. We are kind of launching into a brand new era of the Superman books, and it's really, really cool. I'm really excited for all of this stuff. So what mess, first of all, did Action Comics 1050 fix? Well, Bendis showed up at DC, wrote a little bit something, and then, broke a bunch of toys and then ran off. He aged up John Kent from being a preteen to being, in his late teens. He revealed Superman's secret identity and then really never did anything with that reveal. And so what they did here is they basically put the identity genie back in the box with a totally funny crack by Lex Luthor, by the way, spoilers, about Spider-Man One More Day, because the way they go about this is that Lex Luthor has determined that Superman is actually necessary, even though he hates him. But that people cannot see him as human. He has to be godlike to them in order for Superman to be effective. So Lex Luthor uses a telepathic character by the name of Manchester Black to basically, wipe the memory of everybody on Earth of Superman's secret identity. And he even now here it comes. He even says to Superman, "You better be glad that I let you keep your marriage."
Oh my god.
And I laughed. It's a great issue, by the way, but it kind of sets the table for some really cool stuff coming up. So first of all, they are relaunching the old Adventures of Superman title, which is a very storied title, this time focusing on Superman's son John Kent. So it's Adventures of Superman John Kent #1. It's going to be once again written by Tom Taylor, who wrote the previous volume of John Kent's adventures when he was sort of filling in for Superman proper while he was off planet. And it's going to feature art by Clayton Henry. And here is a really cool concept for a story. Here's the official tagline: across the multiverse, Kal-Els are being murdered. Val-Zod, the Superman of Earth 2, believes only one man can help stop the killing: Kal-El's son, John Kent. John will have to step across dimensions and face the killer of the Kal-Els, the monstrous Ultraman, which is, by the way, an alternate reality Superman who is evil, the man who kidnapped and tortured him for years. And Val-Zod is not acting alone in trying to save the Superman. Who is the mysterious woman alongside him, and what is her shocking connection to the Super family? So cool kind of multiverse storytelling going on here, which is something a little different than what John Kent has been involved with up to this point. But what is also really interesting is that there are a crap ton of variant covers, and several of them feature John Kent sporting electric blue Superman powers as those of Electric Superman from the 90s, which, holy crap, dude. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. As a permanent look and power set for Superman, I never liked Electric Blue Superman, but as a storyline, it was fantastic. And nobody ever made that cooler back in the day than Grant Morrison in JLA. He did so many cool and interesting things with Superman and his electric powers during that run. He was served a turd sandwich, and he just made it just a gourmet 5-course meal. And so I'm actually interested in seeing that look and that power set applied to somebody other than Superman. So if that's really what's happening in this book, that'll also, further differentiate John Kent from his dad, and we'll get, an opportunity to play around with the character a little bit. Plus, dude, Val-Zod is back, and it's been way too long since we've seen that character. He's a great version of an alternate universe Superman. Then over on Superman proper, the title is being relaunched. It's going to be written by Joshua Williamson with art and covers by Jamal Campbell. And Williamson has already gone on the record as saying that, much like his run on The Flash, he wants to touch every corner of Superman's world and deal with every villain in some way, shape, or form. He's just going to run through the classics and just do some really classic Superman storytelling. And this first story arc focuses on the Parasite, who gains apparently a new power set. And Lex Luthor, who is now incarcerated for killing Manchester Black, is going to play a role here and may actually have to help Superman defeat the Parasite. So, heck yeah for Jamal Campbell back on interior art. Also, just to add to the excitedness here, there is a new anti-hero being added for Metropolis called the Spirit of Metropolis.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with her.
That design is really something, isn't it? And so seeing Superman bump up against somebody like that in Metropolis, who appears to have sort of a bit of a Batman only comes out at night vibe, I'm here for this. And then finally, if you're talking about Superman, of course, we're going to have to talk about Action Comics, which is retaining its original numbering. In March, we're going to be at 1053. Philip Kennedy Johnson is going to continue writing here. He obviously wrote the War World arc through Action Comics that has had a really good response, where Superman goes and tries to liberate the people that are enslaved on War World under Mongol. Very cool storyline. So seeing what he does now, I'm into it. And in Action Comics, we're going to see Metallo, and of course there was a sort of seeds laid in Action Comics 1050 for a big Metallo storyline. So the entire Superman family of books seems to be, looking up. They're going to back to classic, Clark Kent at the Daily Planet stuff, bringing back the secret identity. They are, bringing back classic villains and playing around with their power sets and giving them new storylines, which I think is, really overdue. You got Jamal Campbell on interior art again, which, takes too long sometimes to get that man on interior art, but when he's there, he knocks it out of the park. We get, possibility from some electric blue Superman on John Kent. We get some Val Zod, some Ultraman. I mean, as a Superman fan, I'm eating good in March.
Oh my god. Okay, so I'm obsessed with this. There was so much at Marvel that I didn't even get to the DC solicit. So all three spoilers, and go figure, haha, all of mine are coming from Marvel. But Jesus Weezus, there's so much stuff coming from DC that I'm obsessed with. Have you read Superman Space Age? Because Michael Allred's art is just stunning to me, and I want to dive into
It's
that.
beautiful, yes. It's on my list. I've not read it yet, but the art is gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm reading Elseworld Superman stories right now from some Elseworlds collections, and I'm not. There may have to be. I may have to write something for our website or something about that because it's quite an experience.
Dude, Christopher Priest is writing a Superman book?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Superman Lost.
I didn't even. Yeah, I was only talking about the main ongoing titles. I think this one's a mini.
Yeah, 10
Yeah,
issues. Holy crap. Okay. Also, here's we're just going to be talking for all day. Here's one that I'm all in on. Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods. Wonder Woman book written by G. Willow Wilson, the god. Becky Cloonan, Michael Conrad. I need to get caught up on Wonder Woman books. I've taken a hiatus since Nubia was wrapped up, but oh man, there's so much stuff here. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is what I was going to ask you originally. Where can I jump on for this Superman ride? Can it be Action Comics 1050, or do I scale back before that?
I think you can do Action Comics 1050. Basically, all you need to know is that Superman was off-world, and his son has been filling in for him. And then Action Comics 1050 just kind of sets the stage for what they're going to do in the future. They reestablish the secret identity, and you kind of move some chairs around to get everything ready for this. But if I would say, Son of Kal-El, which was the Jonathan Kent book,
I read the first 3 or 4, and I liked it. I just fell off because there's so many books I'm reading.
Yeah, I don't think they even hit it to 20 issues before this relaunch, so that should be an easy catch up. And if you're really feeling like it, I think the entire Action Comics War World arc is up on DC Universe Infinite, and it's totally worth the price of admission. If you ever wanted to see Superman, like loincloth style, gladiator style, this is about as wild as it gets. It's really good. But yeah, if you're just looking for this new direction, I would say Action Comics 1050. That's where I would start.
It's funny you say that because, part of this break that we had from school, I've revisited the original Justice League, and I watched the War World episodes from season 1 last night. So, a great intro. But yeah, Spirit of Metropolis, I'm obsessed with her, and bring in a black female character. That's my gateway.
Yeah, I'm just really excited for Superman to just like be a focal point, like it is. Like you can really tell that they're getting some good people on the books, and they're putting some effort into this, and I'm just excited for this. I really am. I remember all those advertisements that they had of Superman. Bendis is coming, and it was not what I think Superman needed in the long run. That whole run was just a mess. So I'm glad that things are snapping back into place here, and I'm really looking forward to this stuff. All right, Chris, that brings us to your second book that you're looking forward to.
Man, we talked about this last week, I think, but I love a good anthology. And it's just fun to have so many different creators featured in the spotlight. I've been a huge proponent of the Marvel's Voices anthologies, both Legacy, Comunidades, and all of them. The Pride stuff, it's been fantastic just to see so many different creators from different backgrounds just cook and just be awesome. So the next one coming up in March for Women's History Month is The Women of Marvel. I'm going to read the solicit here. Marvel's fiercest heroines take the spotlight in an all-new Women of Marvel one-shot. Get in now for a preview of the women creators taking Marvel Comics by storm. Power Ranger scribe Melissa Flores sends America Chavez on a pulse-punching adventure. She-Hulk steers straight into the gutters, and she loves it. Silk spins a wild web through New York City. All this and more as Women of Marvel celebrates more than 10 years of uplifting the characters and creators you know and love, and the ones you're about to. I can't be more excited about this. I love strong female protagonists. I think that's the one common thread through our entire show. Plus, with under these anthologies, you get dope variant covers that almost make me want to dive back into, collecting physical comics, if for no other reason than I need, classroom decoration. What I've done with my other physical comics. I'm just super excited to see these women go off and just write awesome stuff.
Yeah, I'm in. Yeah, that's it. I'm in. I really do like a good anthology as well. Spoken about that plenty of times. And I came up in a family full of strong women, and so I have a great affinity for, great female characters and female artists and female writers. And this book is just tailor made. I'm there. I'm gonna read this. I'm ready for it.
All right, Dave. One of the bright spots of the recent DC on-screen adaptations has been Doom Patrol, and you're bringing us to the comics.
Yeah, so obviously, if you want, to read good Doom Patrol, there are, several options out there in the world. The biggest one, of course, and the one that should never be forgotten, Grant Morrison. They rock. They rock everything that they ever write. So if you want good Doom Patrol, Morrison's Doom Patrol is definitely a place where you'd want to start. However, we're getting a new Doom Patrol book, written by Dennis Culver. With art and covers by Chris Burnham. And I have to say, I'm excited. The art looks really good, and the conceit looks interesting. And I'm just, I'm there. I want more Doom Patrol. And I'm still waiting for DC to do a good job of capitalizing on the critical acclaim that they've gotten for their Doom Patrol television series. So here we go. Unstoppable Doom Patrol #1. The world's strangest heroes are back in the DC universe after the events of Lazarus Planet. Don't ask. More people than ever have active metagenes. Most of these new metahumans have become misfits, shunned and imprisoned by a fearful society. They're hidden away in the dark, lost to a system that only sees them as weapons or guinea pigs, ticking time bombs that can only be defused by the unstoppable Doom Patrol. Robot Man, Elasti-Woman, and Negative Man are joined by their brand new teammates Beast Girl and Degenerate. Best name ever, Degenerate. Best name. and led by Crazy Jane's mysterious new alter, the Chief, on a mission of saving the world by saving the monsters. I think I really like the conceit of this. It almost sort of reeks of like classic X-Men a little bit, like go and save the misfits, and I really think that there's something here. There's a strong foundation for something cool. So I'm all about like getting me some more Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I was. It sounds like what I wanted Marauders to be, and what it was for the first 6 or 7 issues, and then it fell away from. I wanted the mutant pirates to go and save the world and save the underprivileged and the downcast, and then it just went into something completely different, which was fine, but it's not what I wanted. I will say that the bits of Doom Patrol that I've seen, again, I've been all over the place with my reading and viewing habits, but the scenes that I saw from Diane Guerrero as Crazy Jane was one of the most stand still, like mouth agape acting performances I've ever seen. To be able to switch between all those different personalities and alters was just stunning. So I'm in for this book.
Yeah, it's an exciting time if you like the TV show to get another Doom Patrol book. I really hope they knock this one out of the park. I'm just really ready for it, man. All right, that brings us to the final book that you're excited for, Chris. What have you got?
So I'm excited for the new mini. I teased this a little bit because one of my faves, Lucas Wernick, did a variant cover for it, but Rogan Gambit number one of five, another little mini series about one of my favorite couples in comics, written by Stephanie Phillips, who has crossed over from DC. Art by Carlos Gomez. Krakoa is on a precipice. Destiny alone can see what's coming, but the precog cannot act. For that, she'll need her adoptive daughter, Rogue. Husbands need not apply, but with mutant duties stealing Rogue away so much these days, Gambit is determined to make the most of the mission and put some Cajun spice back into their increasingly complicated love affair. He just has to make it out of the bar first. Powerhouse writer Stephanie Phillips of Harley Quinn, Wonder Woman, Millie the Spy joins fan favorite artist Carlos Gomez, Exterminators, Amazing Spider-Man for a thrill ride that'll lay bare some of Krakoa's biggest secrets. One of my increasing frustrations over the past few years, as much as I love the X books, has been how separate they have been, Rogue and Gambit. And one of the great little one-off issues of Jerry Duggan's X-Men series was, now that Destiny has been resurrected, she of course was dead during their marriage, and she cannot stand Gambit. And there's nothing better in some storytelling tropes than the disapproving mother-in-law, especially one who has precognition powers and can see the future. So I'm really excited about this. I loved Kelly Thompson's work with Rogue and Gambit before, and to see Stephanie Phillips, who is a new creator to me. I've followed her stuff peripherally, but I've not read any of her work, but I've heard great things about. I'm excited to see Rogue and Gambit at the forefront again and stop separating them through Otherworld and all this nonsense.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always like the combination of those two characters. Dare I say I ship them. I always enjoyed how they played off each other. And I know they've done a book like this before, pre-Krakoa, that was Rogue and Gambit. That was not half bad. So I'm definitely willing to give this a shot. Of course, I have sort of a fraught relationship with Krakoa era X-Men. I know that a lot of X-Men fans sort of celebrate that massive expansion that world has experienced. It's almost become too unwieldy for somebody who doesn't want to, read everything. So I struggle sometimes, being in the know. It almost seems like the X-Men universe, it's almost an entire, publishing line of its own at this point. And so, I struggle a little bit keeping up with the various parts. There are good things and things I've enjoyed about that era and things I've not enjoyed so much. But this looks like something that I could take some pleasure out of, man.
Yeah, I know that I still maintain, I know that it's daunting from the outset, and as a newcomer, I totally get it. But there are several Krakoa X books that I haven't kept up with in months, if not years. Wolverine, I kind of have a hit or miss relationship with, so I haven't read his book in about a year. I haven't read X-Force. There's several books that just don't appeal to me. So, and it's fine. So it's almost like a choose your own adventure. Like what characters you're interested in, you can look at the roster and just go full force with them. Or maybe there's a creator that you like and you can get behind. Not all the X books have been home runs for me personally. So, but I totally get where you're coming from. All right. It would not be a Dave special if it wasn't an indie book.
Yeah, I love DC, but I also love me some indies. And who has been knocking it out of the park more than Boom Studios? I don't think really anybody's been knocking it out of the park quite like Boom Studios lately. And so in March, we're getting a new book from them, a 5-issue miniseries called Neighbors. And it looks to be something that is really, truly up my alley with some absolutely gorgeous art. And if the storytelling can keep pace, I think we're in for a treat here. So here is the solicit. When Janet and Oliver Gowdy move to a quaint mountain town, their daughter Casey becomes part of a horrific chain of events, revealing that their neighbors are anything but what they seem. Soon, an unsettling old woman named Agnes Early fixates on Janet and Oliver's other daughter, 2-year-old Isabel. It becomes clear that it's impossible to know who to trust or who is even still human. Steeped in Irish and English folklore and mythology, Jude Ellison S. Doyle, who wrote Maud, joins artist Letitia Ta-Nehisi, I hope I said that right, who did art on House of Slaughter. And let me tell you, House of Slaughter was a gorgeous book. and colorist Alessandro Santoro to tread new ground in Changeling Horror, a tale perfect for fans of Eat the Rich and The Nice House on the Lake. And let me tell you, The Nice House on the Lake, also a fantastic book. So, I like me some horror. I love me some folklore and mythology. I have Irish ancestors, so I have an affinity for that anyways. The art is gorgeous. And I am really here for this. It looks spot on, man. I'm all about checking out Neighbors from Boom Studios.
Yeah, this is absolutely stunning. This is not on my radar at all. Your conversion therapy into horror has been somewhat successful, and so I'm intrigued for this. I have another segment of my friend group in the X of Words community that is all about books like this, and so I'm definitely intrigued.
I'm glad to hear that because you don't have to be a lover of horror necessarily to appreciate the occasional horror story. And I know you enjoy mythology,
Mm-hmm.
so this might be something that's right up your alley, my man. Alrighty, folks, there you have it. Those are the big books that we are excited for coming in March of 2023. What are you excited for? Find us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Nerd Byword, or individually at That Nerd Dave and at That Nerd Chris. We'd love to hear what you are most excited to pick up in the month of March. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's going to be time for Nerd Commendations, so stick around. Ladies and gentle nerds, we're back with this week's Commendations. Now, what better way to end an episode than to talk about some books that are absolutely worth your time? Chris, what have you got this week?
Well, I would love to talk about books that are worth my time, but I'm actually nerd commending a Disney Plus series.
How dare you, sir? We
listen,
read on this podcast.
Listen, I have detailed before on the show how OCD I am and just how much of an oddball I am when it comes to when I'm in something, I'm all the way in. So I've been listening to / reading this Air trilogy. I'm almost halfway through the third and final book. I've been making ground over the past week or two. And so that really has put Star Wars at the forefront of my fandom time right now. So I'm playing a game that I'm going to nerd commend next week. But I just wrapped up Tales of the Jedi from Disney Plus, and I cannot say enough about how much I love it. It took the best elements of the Clone Wars animated series and just it distilled it down to the good stuff. You always make a caveat when you recommend the Clone Wars animated series to someone. Like, there's a lot of boring stuff. You're gonna have to just trim the fat, watch these episodes, exclude these others. But this was just the good stuff because they're shorts. It's just a series of 6 shorts. They're about 15 minutes, and with Disney Plus, that just means like 4 minutes of credits. So it's only about 10 or 11 minutes, the actual episode. And interestingly, it has, as is you want to do with Star Wars and bringing balance to the Force, you have about half, it's about a 4-2, but the two characters that it focuses on are Count Dooku and Ahsoka Tano, blessed be her name. And it's just really interesting, kind of getting some depth and context around their characters. It was nothing truly groundbreaking, nothing shocking reveals, in my opinion, but like it just kind of filled in some blank spaces. The first episode is Ahsoka as an infant, and some hijinks kind of take place, and it's kind of revealed her Force sensitivity at a young age. And then you get Dooku as a younger character with Qui-Gon Jinn as his Padawan learner. And then you go into a story that features Dooku and Mace Windu on a mission together. And then you get Dooku's betrayal. And it features the much chirped about character of Jedi Master Yaddle. Actually, it is 3-3 balance. And then you get a really great training episode with Anakin and Ahsoka. Far and away the best thing to come out of the Clone Wars animated series, in my opinion. And then the final episode is Ahsoka on the run, and trying to hide out after Order 66. So highly recommend. This is just more ammunition in my Ahsoka supremacy propaganda, and all the more reason for me to be excited about the Ahsoka series coming up.
Might have to check this out. I guess it's okay not to read once, right?
Yeah, it's a quick run through. I usually put it on while I was eating or something. So like if you sat down and watched it all the way through, you could probably get through it in like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
I think I'm here for this. I think I might have to give this a look. When Star Wars clicks, it's amazing, and when Star Wars sucks, it sucks like a Hoover Dam. So I'm really, if you're telling me this clicks, then I'm here for it.
All right, Dave, your nerd commendation this week is really fascinating. You've been giving me droplets and teases throughout as you're texting me the last couple weeks.
Yeah, so you were incredibly pushy with Ta-Nehisi Coates' run on Black Panther and wanting me to read it. And I think you even gave it to me as like a homework assignment for the first batch of issues or something at one point. And
do it again.
And I will freely, I'll believe you. And I freely admit that I liked it, but it didn't quite click with me the way it clicked with you. And I'm a huge Captain America fan.
Did you do the second part? Did you do Intergalactic Empire?
I did not.
No,
and
because
maybe that's the missing piece.
That wasn't part of the homework. I'm the boring geopolitical nerd, history nerd, social studies nerd in me like that nation building stuff, which we're fellow history nerds, but maybe that doesn't scratch your itch. But that intergalactic part, the second volume, another 25 issues. I mean, I'm not saying it's homework, but don't push me. But yeah, sorry, your segment, not mine.
So I'm a huge Captain America fan, particularly a huge fan of Brubaker's run, that brought the whole Winter Soldier stuff about and all that. I read the entire Brubaker run and adored it. And then I tried, I dipped my toe in a couple other Captain America runs and didn't quite hit me the same way. And so I just, backed away and read some other stuff. And then the other night I was trying to read something on DC Universe Infinite and the app kept crashing. So I was like, all right, switching to Marvel. And the first recommended thing was Captain America run by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And I was like, well, why not? 30 issues, I can do this. So I have to say, it's my nerd commendation. Ta-Nehisi Coates on Captain America is a freaking revelation. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read you like the tagline for the first trade, but there's a lot to unpack here. I'll try to make it quick, but I don't want to spoil too much of what's going on here, but there's a lot going on here. So here's the tagline for the first trade. It's winter in America. For over 70 years, Captain America has stood in stalwart defense of our country and its people. But in the aftermath of Hydra's takeover of the nation, Cap is a figure of controversy carrying a tarnished shield, and a new enemy is rising. Who are they and how do they intend to co-opt and corrupt the symbol that is Captain America? Distrusted by a nation that seems to have lost faith in him, Steve Rogers is a man out of time and out of options. Where can a now unsanctioned Captain America turn for aid and assistance in order to stem the rise of the cabal of influence brokers known as the power elite? If you're doing like Captain America's distrusted, the symbol is tarnished, that's a great jumping on point for the story. And we are talking about like the aftermath of the whole Hydra Cap thing, Secret Empire and all that, which was not Captain America, as you find out in the story, but still public perception has shifted against him. That's already a great starting out point, but Coates does not really just like sit on that and use that. He really digs in with this one and talks about all sorts of hot button issues and things that are important in this day and age in the country, and really does just a fantastic job commenting on it. We're talking about domestic terror, sort of the sense in the heartland, quote unquote, flyover country that people are being left behind. The notion of the toxic bros online, right? And what does it mean to be a real man? Militias, trafficked migrants. You know, there's a sub storyline that involves a cop killer. There's just so many moving parts here that are absolutely fascinating, and seeing that through the lens of this idealist, which is what Steve Rogers is absolutely fascinating. He also really digs in on Sharon Carter's character. I think he even kind of outright lets the character say it out loud once, which is, I'm kind of tired of getting saved. I want to save myself for a change. And so Sharon Carter gets just wonderful moments in the series to shine and to stand on her own as a character. There's also a really cool introduction of this notion. I think it's called the Daughters of Liberty, an all-female group that is sort of works behind the scenes and tries to protect the country and recruits. Now from like the superhero community, you get wonderful people jumping in and out of the book. White Tiger's there. You talked about her quite a bit, and I'm really starting to see the appeal thanks to the series. Misty Knight is a big part of the book. Echo is in the book as well. Spider-Woman pops up, Mockingbird. Invisible Woman pops in and out of the book a few times as part of this group. That is a real cool way of adding to the mythology, I guess, around Captain America. So the whole book is incredibly cohesive, and I know because of the pandemic it went through some delays, but if you just go on Marvel Unlimited and you read all 30 issues sort of back to back without any major delays, it's incredibly cohesive, telling an overarching story with a clear beginning, middle, and end, with commentary on real world issues, with lots of superhero action, treats its female characters with respect, and does really good by kind of maintaining the best characterizations that we've seen of Steve Rogers as a character. Rogers himself actually narrates the book, and Coates has a great voice for Steve Rogers in this book. So I adored this run. I would say that it's the best Captain America run that I have read since Brubaker's run. It's absolutely worth checking out, Chris.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. I'm someone who here's my relationship with the character is the whole controversy about Nick Spencer's original Captain America run. That's the only Captain America run I've ever read. And so I was there from the ground up when that new issue released, or shortly thereafter when the Hail Hydra thing showed up. I was just like, oh god, I was intrigued and I was hooked. And I think that contextually, when that book was released, that was the rise of Donald Trump and Trumpism. And so the speeches that Red Skull was giving were like carbon copied of the type of stuff that Donald Trump was spewing. And so it was fascinating to me. And so the whole Secret Empire thing was something that I enjoyed, because I thought it was a smart thing to play with. And one reason that I was interested and intrigued for Spencer coming to ASM, we all know how that turned out. However, a Secret Empire was fascinating to me. And so I think the world of Ta-Nehisi Coates, that Black Panther run is something that just really just speaks to me. And so I think I read the first issue of this before I just, again, became distracted because there's so many books that I'm reading. This also came out in Krakoa era. So that's what I spent most of my time focused on keeping up with. But yeah, I'm here for this because I think the symbolism and like the metatextual intersectionality of this book is so smart and so well done, and even Spencer did that well in his time. So I can imagine. I even love Coates's work outside of comics. What he makes the big bucks for. And his academia type stuff, and his essays and publications. So I'm a huge fan, and I'm ready to dive in on this one.
It's totally worth it. It's 30 issues. It's all on Marvel Unlimited. It ran from 2018 to 2021. And it's a fantastic fantastic Captain America title. Alrighty, folks. Well, there you have it. That's it for another episode of the Nerd Byword podcast. If you like what you heard today, please jump on your favorite podcast platform, give us a rating and a review, and subscribe so you never miss another episode. You can find us wherever podcasts are available, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, our very own spiffy website, nerdbyword.com.
And also be sure to follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Nerd by Word, that Nerd Dave, that Nerd Kris, respectively, individually. And as always, stay well and stay nerdy.
The Nerd Byword is written and produced by Kris and Dave, two nerds with a love of all things pop culture. The podcast features music by Al Jimenez with additional drops composed by Joe Biondi. Our show art is by Ashery Design. Find us at nerdbyword.com and wherever podcasts are available.